Monster RX93.1 presents The Morning Rush. The Morning Rush, the country's favorite morning program on FM radio. Music, laughs, all the hot tea, and the hilarious top 10. Your hosts, Chico, Hazel, Markki, and Rica. The Morning Rush.
Speaking of, we just wanted to, ask Reiman here. You know how, the world knows you as a certain way. You know, there are videos of you just collecting your reactions, how you react to everything. I mean, you have large animated reactions to the smallest things. Mm-hmm. And then the many times I've encountered yours is the complete opposite. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people who know you personally have noticed that change in you. Is that something that was conscious? Like, did you consciously try to control how you react, or were you surprised that people were telling you that, look, you're so different from how you were?
Yeah. It's not conscious. It's not like I ever tried to not react to things, because that's just another reaction. It's just noticing the reactions, noticing the patterns, and the mind does learn. It's very slow, but you observe yourself long enough, over and over and over, and then maybe on the 1,000th time, you don't freak out, right? So I just observed, over a long period of time, repeatedly practicing, and the stuff just kind of fades away. Like, it's not like you have these problems, and often people go into meditation because they have a problem, like anxiety, which, I think you said it, Markki, like we all are dealing with something these days. I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but it can't be worse than the United States. So, I mean, with this whole pandemic, a lot of anxiety, and people will go to meditation because they have a problem like that. And it's not as if meditation cures that problem. It doesn't. It's not like some magic panacea. But what it does is it just allows you to see the problem with awareness, to see what you're calling a problem over and over, and then eventually you stop thinking of it as such a problem. So when I still react to things, right? We all have our moments. But when I do, I just observe it, and that's it. And I don't judge myself. I don't keep the reaction going by spinning in thoughts. But it's cool to hear that y'all have noticed Chico be a little calmer. He's been meditating for a month now.
No, I mean,
even in this conversation, I mean, it's so relaxing, this conversation.
He's not aggressive. He's less worried.
Good. Nice.
Yeah. It's great to see. It's great to see.
And it's good that he's still fun, because sometimes I worry with meditation that I don't react to things anymore. I'm not as high strung. Maybe I become boring, right?
Don't worry, because I have my 3 co-hosts to supply my daily dose of anxiety, and they make sure that I don't get too relaxed. That's their job. Yeah.
But do you stay away from the internet, looking at Twitter or the news, or do you still indulge yourself in that?
I do it a limited amount, because it's with social media, it's an amazing way to connect with people. I never would have met Chico if I hadn't, put stuff out on social media and done this meditation stuff, started a meditation group. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So it's amazing. And I love that possibility. I love that I can talk to y'all and be, connecting with the Philippines more than I ever did when I was on the show. Because I was on the show and I thought I would have this amazing adventure in the Philippines, but I was just on an island in the Philippines. I didn't see anything in Manila other than the airport. So,
when things are better.
Oh yeah, I really do want to someday. I really do. But the possibility to connect is incredible. And so I still do it a little bit, but I try to limit it, because it's really working against mindfulness. Mindfulness, people often think about, meditation and mindfulness as just something you do on the cushion, in some specific position, eyes closed, chanting Om. But really, I think of it as a quality that can exist in any situation, right? Anytime, any place, you can have mindfulness. And it's really just internal awareness, being aware of what's going on inside as you're relating to the external world. And like news, Facebook, Twitter, social media, TV, all of these things like keep us just, distracted by the external and make it hard to have that internal awareness. Like it scatters your attention, and it keeps you reacting to things. Like if you're just scrolling all day, you're kind of in a state of reactivity all day. So I try and limit it, and it's amazing like how I noticed the effect more after meditating. Like after the 3-month retreat, my first time going on social media, going on the internet, it was overwhelming. Like after about an hour, I was like, I can't do this anymore. My attention is going in a million different directions. Like I have to stop and just sit here. So it's like, I've adjusted since then. But yeah, these things that we have in our lives every day are having like a powerful effect on our attention.
We're getting so many comments.
Sorry.
My gosh, we're getting so many comments from people. Of course, they're all enjoying the conversation and they're learning a lot about meditation. But we have a lot of Survivor fans watching well on Facebook Live, and they're all asking, are you still a fan of Survivor? Do you still watch it? Would you ever consider playing again?
Yes, I'm still a fan. I still watch it. I'm not the super fan I was. So when I first went on the show, I was obsessed with Survivor. I knew every contestant's first and last name from every season. I had watched everything 3 times. Now I watch the show and I turn it off and that's it. But it's still an awesome show. Season 40 was awesome.
Oh my gosh, when it was
Tony.
Did you root for Tony?
Yes, of course. Team TV. All the way in Cagayan, and then he becomes the king of Survivor.
Were you able to experience the Philippines while you were here outside of the island? Were you able to go to the
Not
cities?
really. Yeah, that's what I was saying, trying to say before is like, I wish I had gotten to see more of the country, but I just, was in the Manila airport, and then we were traveling to the location, and even traveling to the location, they put like black tape on all the windows of the vans so that you can't see out the window, because they want to keep you in this like experience where you're just a castaway and you're not like, they want to take away the idea that you're a citizen in the world. And so I didn't see the Philippines really at all. Like I got to go on a few cool rewards in Cagayan and see things in nature, like some caves. But for the most part, I was kind of sad I didn't get to see more of the Philippines. I'm definitely gonna, after the pandemic, someday in the future, I'm definitely gonna come back.
Come back, Chico, and the rest of us will take you to Palawan or wherever it is that you want to go. See the rest of the Philippines. It's a beautiful country.
And there's actually a lot of nice places to meditate here with all those beautiful like island, nature resorts. And a lot of the resorts here actually offer yoga, meditation. There's this one that's very near Manila, just 3 hours away. When you go there, they offer meditation classes. They have this beautiful like podium in the middle of like overlooking the sunrise, and they do yoga and meditation in the morning. It's really quite beautiful. And
maybe I'll move. We'll see what happens in 2020.
Right. And the thing is, a lot of people, when they hear meditation, because this is my experience as a kid, I would encounter meditation like in comic books, and it was called, I don't even know if it is a thing, but it was called transcendental meditation, and you'd have these skinny guys, in a turban and a loincloth floating a few inches above the ground, and it seemed so otherworldly. But as my experience, as with my experience with you, Reiman, it's something that regular people can do. You don't need any previous experience. My first ever meditation was when I joined your group, and that's, I think, what a lot of people don't realize. You don't need anything special, any training or any previous experience. You can try it completely as a greenhorn and get so many different things from it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you say that, because it does really seem otherworldly to people, and the image of it especially, it's not necessarily inviting, and then people start and they try and meditate and they realize that they're thinking, which always happens, but because there's this otherworldly image of meditation and these images of blissful people with no thoughts, people really quickly think it's not for them, and it's a shame because you said it very well. Like, it's for everyone. Anyone who has time to breathe, has time to meditate. Anyone who can look into their own experience can meditate, and it's gradual. But if you give it time, if you give it a few weeks and give it a real try, it's incredible the change that's possible.
Yeah.
It is true. It's something that everyone should, give it a shot, because you'd be surprised, and you get a lot of, like a lot of the things that is said during meditation, you realize afterwards have very practical applications. Sometimes, Reiman would be saying stuff during meditation, and then like the next day I'd be doing something and there would be this light bulb moment, like, oh my goodness, Reiman said this last night, and it could apply to another aspect of my life that's outside of meditation. Like, okay, like for example, you try to not think about stuff. You're meditating and then you start thinking of, let's say, your work tomorrow. I have a deadline. And then you remember, and then you're like, whoops. And then, Reiman was saying, if you find yourself wandering, that's fine. It's not a sin. It's not a bad thing. Just get yourself back to mindfulness.
Yeah.
And, the practical application is, when you're living your life and you do something that you feel like, oh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You can just go back. There's no rule that says once you make a mistake, you can't go back. You can always go back. And, I love these little nuggets that you get out of it that have other applications other than during meditation.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it's like
I wonder how you are before you sleep, because how for a lot of people, before sleeping, when you're in bed, that's where all the thoughts come in. And I don't know how to stop that, because it happens to me all the time.
Well, you could always try. I mean, if you don't want to meditate, you could always try just breathing. Just breathing slowly has a huge effect. If you just breathe in 6 seconds, out 6 seconds, so 5 full breaths per minute for like 5 minutes, you'll get a lot calmer.
Oh, for me, the problem
I'll try
is
that later.
the more I don't want to think about something, the more I can't push it out of my mind. It's like, I'm doing one thing and then this thought enters my head and I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to think about that. Not right now. But then it's already in my head. And so it's so difficult to snap out of it.
Yeah. Well, I think like what Chico was saying about like the fact that you don't have to blame yourself is really helpful, because it's like not supposed to think about that. There's no supposed to, like you thought about that. Thinking happens, right? We don't control what we think about. So there's no reason to like be pushing it away or to try to push it away, really. Like rather than pushing things away, it's just like seeing them and then letting them go, letting them be, right? Like, sorry, Markki, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, it's kind of interesting, because that's a similar thing that I experienced very recently. There was an incident that happened in my life that I couldn't get out of my head, and it was through a form of meditation that I was able to snap out of things. I had a friend who saw me when all of the turmoils and stress were happening in my life, and he was like, "What is happening to you? You're not the usual Zen form of yourself." And then after the whole meditative therapy, the whole Reiki therapy that I went through, where I really tried to release all the tensions in my life and just breathe. There was a time I just breathed. For some reason, all of that was out of sight and out of mind. And meditation has that way of making you like more Zen, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like not necessarily by like forcing it or by pushing them away, but just like letting them come and letting them go. Because whatever thought comes to you, it'll go away eventually. So just like accepting it, being fine.
You know what? Cherry Bells brought up something that she is a follower of your podcast. You have a podcast, and she was asking when you have.
If it's the same Cherry, I think she sent me a message on Instagram. Hi, Cherry.
There. So she was asking when you'll have a new episode, and your podcast has a very interesting title, Redeeming Disorder. So what is your podcast about?
So it started and still is about mental health and mental disorder. And the idea of it was that we have all these notions of disorder, like you think about mental disorder and you associate it with so many things, and it's very stigmatized. And so the goal to redeem disorder is just to talk about it, to have it in the open, and to normalize mental health struggles, because it's something we all deal with, like, to some degree or another. But then also, I've put out some meditation related content on the podcast, and I'll put out a little bit more. And in the next few weeks, I'll put out some more interviews that I did with people who shared their personal stories dealing with, depression or anxiety or obsessive compulsive personality disorder or any number of different challenges. When people hear a story like that from someone else, it often is helpful just to make you feel less alone, to remind you that other people deal with these things, and it's a normal part of being human. And unfortunately, an increasingly normal part of being human with, like, you mentioned social media and technology, and these are spurring a lot of challenges. So meditation is a nice antidote, but also just talking about it is a good antidote. Yeah.
And before we let Reiman go here, to end on a little bit of a lighter note, somebody was asking, Anton was asking, you joined Survivor twice, and for some strange reason, you probably joined the 2 seasons which experienced the most rains. Like, it was like storming in both seasons. You were soaked the entire time. So the question is, do you miss the rain? I mean, do you get triggered every time there's a downpour and it goes?
Not anymore, but for a long time. For a long time, like, I would hear the rain and I would kind of like, and I'd be like, okay, good. There's a roof over my head. That was the hardest part of Survivor, was Cambodia, 72 hours straight of rain. That was the most miserable
Oh my goodness.
I've ever been. And that's like before Buddhism, before meditation got big, that was a lot of like how people would practice. Actually, it was like asceticism. They would put themselves through great hardship and mutilate their bodies and suffer a lot. And a lot can come from that. Like, it does build a strength and build like some of these things, but I think there's an easier way. So that's why I promote meditation and not rain torture.
Before we ask you, your final message to all of our listeners, again, on behalf of all Filipinos, we'd love to invite you back, because all you remember of the Philippines was your time in Survivor Cagayan, and hopefully you get to experience the country this time around. As you will have a roof over your head, you will have food all of the time, and there will be no bugs.
We'll make sure of that.
And there will be
going around.
You'll be in the house or in malls. You won't be surrounded by
Will there be food?
rain, water,
Lots
of
of
food.
food.
Yeah.
And nobody will vote you out.
No one will vote.
Sounds like a dream. Sounds awesome.
So is there any final stuff you'd like to, tell all of our listeners, maybe during this very difficult time where, like, everything is so impermanent, everything is up in the air. We don't know where the cards will fall. And, everyone feels a little bit uneasy. Is there something you'd like to tell the people listening to us right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that I'm very excited for my visit to the Philippines, but for everyone listening, everyone like is struggling to some degree. I would say, like, I've meditated thousands of hours and have done all this work, and still, like, I have a hard time with this. And there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety. But I think, like, a lot of the reason it's so unsettling is because these notions of what's solid and what's dependable are, shaking. And So it's breaking our notion of solidity and stability and predictability. But this is kind of how life goes. Like if you if you look at history, things change radically, things change quickly, things change unexpectedly, and people endure, people make it through. Everything's changing all the time, really. It's just we aren't always tuning into the change. But if we can make peace as much as we can, and just accept that life has changed, basically. Like if you were to sum up meditation and what I promote, what I teach in one phrase, it would just be everything changes. Everything changes. And the more we can accept it, the easier we can navigate it. And if you want to, meditate to try and, get more accepting of change, you can go to my social media and sign up for the Zoom Sangha, which is my meditation group. Chico has been, joining us when he can. It's not always at the most convenient time, but you can join and meditate in community or just try it on your own. But don't think that you can't try it just because of the image of meditation, or because you think so much, or how your mind works. Like anyone can do this and try this. So whether it's meditation or something else, I'm hoping that you can do what's in your power to do your best and hang in there through this hard time.
All right, so thank you so much, Reiman, for joining us.
Thank
It is such an
you.
honor for us to have you on the show, and a lot of your Filipino fans are just going ape shiz because when they found out that you were going to be joining us. And so thank you for sharing roughly an hour of your time with us, and hope we can have you back. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
See y'all.
too.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And
We learned so much. Thank you very much.
You're very
And to
welcome.
everybody, thank you for joining us on the show. We will see you again tomorrow. And coming up, we have All Out with Rico and Carla. So thank you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
The Morning Rush. The Morning Rush. The landmark morning radio program on Philippine FM Radio. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards for Best Radio Comedy Program. Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1.